It's the beast of burden, the yellow peril, and the doctor. The DRZ, or DRZ as some incorrectly call it, has been around for almost 2 decades with barely a change. It floats like a hippopotamus and stings like a bee. I should know I've had all 3 models, the soft dual sport, the Supermoto version, and the more dirt-oriented yellow E model. While I crap on, let's follow one of our guys around on his latest beast of burden. I don't know about the rest of the world, but in Australia it's still one of the biggest selling models.
This is the hardest bit, getting down. Got to reverse it the whole way.
There's something about old style bikes that almost never get updated, which appeals to Aussies. The DRZ is cheap, long service intervals, relatively cheap parts, and there's a huge array of aftermarket goodies.
It's a lot further.
The DRZ is incredibly reliable. In fact, so reliable that KTM riders usually insist a DRZ is included on their trips.
Sir, do you have any comments on European reliability? No.
The E model has a higher compression ratio, cam profiles and a better carburetor setup. The softer S and SM models can be improved with the 3x3 mods. Just cut a 3x3 inch hole in the top of the airbox, rejet the carb and prepare for arm-wrenching power. Well, you might be waiting for a while. In fact, the previous owner of my Supermoto model spent thousands of dollars wringing everything he could out of the engine. It was still a bit peppier than a stock E model, but nothing to write home about. Instead of power mods, I would strongly recommend considering this.
We're not worthy. We're not worthy. We're not worthy. Just as well Chris has all that fuel in there keeping the front end down on the climbs.
It is reliable, but if you Google around about known issues, here is what you typically find. Stators tend to burn out at around 20,000 kilometres. The regulator or rectifier needs to be upgraded to avoid the stator overheating. The fasteners for the stator, starter gear and primary gear can loosen over time. Get in there with the Loctite. Like quite a few Japanese bikes, there isn't a lot of grease on the swing arm and steering bearings from new. If you find a really old DRZ, they reckon the pre-2002 models needed a manual cam chain tensioner. Remove the safety relay for the side stand, it's sure to leave you stranded in the worst place at the worst possible time. Gearing it down, go bigger on the rear instead of smaller on the front sprocket, otherwise the chain can chew into your swing arm. The seat is far too hard for models that will typically see a lot of road or adventure riding. Like almost every Japanese dirt bike, there's a cable clutch because they haven't discovered hydraulics yet. Once you get off-road, the suspension, of course, is terrible, especially once you start to ride a bit aggressively. The E model is uncomfortably loud for a stock bike, yet the exhaust design is quite restrictive. Unfortunately, most aftermarket exhausts are even louder for relatively little gain. And finally, the 5-speed gearbox doesn't have a very good spread of ratios. Quite a few guys spend a fortune on aftermarket gears to improve this. The DR-Z reminds me very much of its big brother, the DR-650. A great basic bike which could be so much more with tweaks from the factory that would cost next to nothing. For example, change those bloody gear ratios. Put heavier oil and springs in the suspension. Change the seat to a softer foam. I have often made fun of this tendency for the Japanese to focus on changes in colour and graphics each year instead of actual improvements to the bikes themselves. There's a lot of interest in this Honda CRF450L, and it would be great to see Suzuki do maybe a sports model of the DR-Z to match this. I mean, imagine the DR-Z with RMZ suspension, a 6-speed gearbox, and say an extra 5 or 7 horsepower, which would retain the reliability and long service intervals, but pep the engine up. I'm sure there would be a lot of guys who would love to see a DR-Z450, maybe even a 500. Still, as you can see from this vid, if you put a decent rider on a completely stock DR-Z, it will still punt along pretty well. Will we see any changes? I doubt it. When it's selling so well, I'm sure the Suzuki accountants will be saying, don't change anything except the colour next year.